Come as you are, she whispered. The message didn't boom. It didn't threaten. It didn't demand surrender. It whispered, and that was the problem. Because when a voice the size of a moon slides into every speaker, every phone, every headset on Earth and breathes 4 soft words like that, humanity does not react calmly. Humanity spirals. Within minutes, military analysts were debating whether it was psychological warfare. Linguists argued over tone. Religious leaders called emergency sessions. Social media crashed twice. Come as you are. Was that diplomatic minimalism? A trap? A dominance ritual? One general suggested it meant no weapons. Another insisted it meant no disguises. A political advisor said it clearly meant no politics. The internet had other interpretations. Meanwhile, orbit filled with steel. Warships launched. Defense grids powered up. Missiles warmed in silos like nervous fingers hovering over a send button. And in a small cafeteria kitchen 3 blocks from the landing zone, Rafik stared at the message replaying on his cracked phone screen. Come as you are, he read quietly. He checked his reflection in the microwave door. He looked like Rafik. 32. Hair slightly uneven because he cut it himself. Shirt with a faint mustard stain he hoped no one would notice. The kind of face that blended into crowds and stayed there. He had once misread a dating app bio that said be yourself and showed up with a backpack full of homemade cookies. The date had blocked him before dessert. Now an alien voice was saying it. And for once, he decided not to overthink it. No weapons. The news anchor speculated. He didn't own any. No uniforms. He had one apron. No politics. He barely understood local ones. He opened the fridge. If someone invited you somewhere important, you didn't show up empty-handed. His mother had drilled that into him before she passed. Weddings, funerals, awkward apologies. You brought food. Food softened edges. So he packed lunch. Not fancy. Not symbolic. Just what he knew. Tuna sandwiches with too much lemon. Homemade flatbread. Pickled carrots. Brownies he'd made at dawn because stress baking was cheaper than therapy. He wrapped everything carefully in foil. He hesitated, then added extra napkins. Prepared. That's what this was. Preparation. Outside! Jets screamed overhead. Governments broadcast warnings. Civilians stay indoors. Do not approach the landing site. This is a coordinated global response. Rafik put on his cleanest shirt. If come as you are meant vulnerability, then fine. He would come as a cafeteria worker with slightly over-seasoned tuna and chronic self-doubt. The alien craft descended at noon. It didn't burn the sky. It folded space like someone smoothing a bedsheet. A vast silver structure hovered over the city park, elegant and terrifying. Defense systems locked on. 42 warships in orbit-aligned targeting solutions. And one human boarded a bus. The driver glanced at the foil-wrapped bundle in his lap. Picnic? Something like that. The landing zone perimeter was chaos. Military barricades, armored vehicles, drones slicing the air. Rafik approached the outer line. A soldier blocked him. Areas restricted. He lifted the lunchbox slightly. She invited me. The soldier blinked. Who? He pointed at the sky. There was a pause long enough to be uncomfortable. Then every electronic device in a 100-meter radius crackled. Let him pass, the whisper returned. The soldier swallowed. Rafik walked through layers of armed tension, like a man arriving late to a barbecue. The craft opened without sound. A smooth ramp extended downward. Light shimmered, not blinding, intimate. She emerged, tall, luminous skin like starlight through water, eyes dark and observant, not monstrous, not gentle, just aware. Every weapon in range tracked her. She ignored them, her gaze fixed on the man holding sandwiches. You came, she said, voice softer now but somehow louder in the chest. He nodded. You said to. A murmur rippled through global communication feeds. Heads of state leaned closer to screens. Military commanders held their breath. She studied him. No armor. No insignia. No bioenhancements. No pheromone masking. No neural dampeners. Just a human with foil. You understood, she said. He glanced around at tanks, missiles, hovering drones. I thought you meant, just be normal. Normal, she repeated, tasting the word like it might dissolve. He held up the bundle awkwardly. I brought lunch. There was a silence, so complete it felt deliberate. You brought sustenance. Yeah, I wasn't sure how long this would take. A few snickers escaped from Livestream commentators who hadn't muted their feeds. The alien's gaze sharpened, not offended, curious. Behind her, the ship's surface shimmered with scanning patterns. Data flowed. Biological readings mapped them in detail. Elevated heart rate, mild anxiety, no concealed weaponry, no chemical warfare agents, trace amounts of cumin. You approached without defensive augmentation, she observed. I forgot a jacket, he said. The whisper almost shifted tone, almost amusement. In our encounters with other civilizations, she said slowly, they arrive shielded, armored, guarded in flesh and mind. He scratched the back of his neck. I did double wrap the brownies. A ripple moved through the alien hull behind her, as if something inside reacted. Every satellite feed captured the moment she stepped closer. Weapons recalibrated automatically. She stopped an arm's length away. You are aware, she said quietly, that we possess the capacity to erase your species. He swallowed. Yeah, that's kind of hard to miss. And yet you came unprotected. He looked down at the foil in his hands. I didn't think that's what you meant. A pause. Then she leaned slightly forward, not threatening, not seductive, studying. What did you believe I meant? He inhaled. No pretending. No posturing. No try to look bigger than we are. He shrugged. Just show up. The world held its breath. Warships hovered in lethal readiness. Political leaders waited for a misstep. She extended one slender, luminous hand. May I? He nodded and unwrapped the foil. The scent of tuna, lemon, and black pepper drifted into alien air. Sensors flared. Chemical analysis cascaded through her system. But beneath the proteins and carbohydrates, something else registered. Complex organic markers tied to memory encoding. She touched the sandwich, and for a fraction of a second, her posture changed, not weakened, stilled. Images flashed across her perception. A small kitchen with chipped tiles. A woman laughing while burning bread. A boy being told, always bring something when you visit. Embarrassing first dates. Lonely lunches eaten in break rooms. Quiet pride in seasoning something just right. Unfiltered, unarmored. She withdrew her hand slowly. You are, she began and stopped. Behind her, the alien vessel pulsed brighter. Internal communications surged. Other minds tasted the data she had absorbed. Earth's military prepared for retaliation. Instead, she whispered, softer than before. You are the first species to arrive, unarmored. Rafik blinked. I've got napkins, he offered. And somewhere inside the colossal alien craft, something ancient shifted, not in aggression, but in recognition. The first bite was not a bite. It was contact. She didn't chew. She didn't swallow. Her biology dissolved the outer layer of the sandwich into shimmering strands of light that moved across her skin like liquid circuitry. The cameras zoomed. The warships tightened formation. Inside her mind, the tuna wasn't just protein. It was memory. Salt carried childhood oceans he'd never seen. Lemon carried his mother's hand squeezing too much because flavor is courage. Black pepper carried embarrassment. He always overdid it when nervous. She stiffened. The High Council flooded her neural field instantly. Report, assess contamination. Neutralize if necessary. Instead, she whispered, he shared context. Rafik blinked. It's just lunch. It is not just lunch, she replied softly, because to her species, nourishment was engineered, sterile, optimized, calibrated to maintain peak cognitive function. Meals were silent, efficient exchanges of sustenance packs formulated for hierarchy compliance. They had never eaten something that remembered being loved. She extended her hand again. May I experience further? He hesitated. There's onion in that one. I will endure. He handed her the second sandwich. Global defense networks waited for a biochemical attack alert. Instead, alien sensors began broadcasting anomaly signals. Emotional resonance detected. Unfiltered autobiographical imprints embedded in organic composition. She absorbed another fragment and paused longer this time. This memory was smaller. Him sitting alone in a break room after being turned down for a promotion. He had eaten slowly. Not because he was hungry, because it was something to hold. She looked at him differently now. You consume this when distressed? Sometimes. For comfort. Yeah. She tilted her head slightly. You chemically ingest reassurance. He shrugged. That sounds worse than it is. Behind her, the alien vessel pulsed erratically. Council voices sharpened. Human biochemical signals are destabilizing your cognitive field. Disengage. This species manipulates through primitive bonding triggers. She ignored them. You approach without bargaining, she said. Without display of dominance. Without reproductive signaling. He coughed. Reproductive what? In most interspecies negotiations, physical signaling is aggressive or territorial. Oh, a beat. Oh. Her gaze narrowed, not offended, calculating. You did not attempt to impress me. He glanced down at himself. That would have required better shoes. A faint ripple moved across her luminous skin. Alien equivalent of amusement. You brought sustenance instead. My mom said if you show up empty-handed, you're either rude or unprepared. Your mother trained you for diplomacy. She trained me not to embarrass her. Another wave of memory passed through her system as she touched the flatbread. Hands kneading dough at dawn. Flour on a countertop. Radio playing old songs. The quiet pride of feeding someone. The council's alarm intensified. He is imprinting you with personal narrative. This is a dominant strategy. Other species weaponize intimacy. She answered internally. No, he does not weaponize it. He lacks the instinct. She turned back to him. You expose personal vulnerability within consumable form. He frowned. I made bread. You embedded identity in matter. He blinked twice. That's way more poetic than it deserves. Around them, tanks idled. Fighter jets circled. Millions watched breathlessly. She stepped closer. You are aware that your leaders have aimed weapons at my vessel. Yeah. And yet you stand within potential annihilation radius. He inhaled slowly. You said, come as you are. I figured if that wasn't enough, missiles wouldn't help. That answer traveled through her like the lemon had. Unarmored logic. Not bravado. Not heroism. Just simple reasoning wrapped in self-doubt. She reached for the brownies. Caution, he warned. Those are dense. I am advanced. She absorbed a fragment and stopped. Chocolate melted into memory of late-night stress baking, of him standing in a quiet kitchen at 2 a.m. because sleep wouldn't come, of measuring sugar twice because control over something small felt better than control over nothing. This one hit harder. You regulate emotional turbulence through culinary construction, she said quietly. Sometimes it's easier to fix batter than fix your life. Silence. The High Council had no framework for this. Their species eliminated emotional turbulence generations ago, engineered it out, removed volatility to maintain efficiency. They had removed flavor too. You consume pleasure voluntarily, she said. Yeah. You ingest complexity, knowing it causes imbalance. Yep. Why? He smiled faintly. Because bland is worse. The alien vessel's internal systems began recalibrating. The council detected subtle shifts in her neural frequency. He is destabilizing hierarchy. She responded. He is stabilizing me. Earth's governments were losing composure. Military analysts could not categorize what was happening. There was no invasion pattern, no technological exchange protocol, no threat escalation. Just eating. A reporter muttered off mic. Is he flirting? Another answered. With baked goods? She studied him again. You did not attempt to conceal your insecurities. I didn't know I was supposed to. Other species project superiority. I work in a cafeteria. That does not diminish you? He considered that. It pays rent. A pause. And I make good soup. Her eyes softened infinitesimally. Your species invests meaning in small acts. Yeah, that's kind of our thing. Behind her, something shifted inside the ship. An overload warning in their nutrient reactor. Their systems were optimized for sterile intake. Human organic variability was triggering unexpected resonance patterns. A council voice snapped. Cease ingestion immediately. Instead, she asked him, "Do you have more?" He lifted the thermos. "Soup." She extended her hand without hesitation this time. When the liquid touched her skin, a cascade of data surged through alien systems. Salt, fat, heat, and memory. Cold days. Shared tables. Laughter that didn't require perfection. Her internal processors spiked dangerously. Not from toxicity. From emotional density. She steadied herself. "You are chaotic," she said softly. "Yeah. You are inefficient." "Very. You overseason when anxious." He winced, working on that. "And yet," she continued, voice lowering, "you approach the unknown with offering instead of aggression." He looked at the thermos. "I figure worst case scenario, at least someone eats." She absorbed the final fragment. Then she straightened, luminous form stabilizing. Across orbit, alien weapons powered down by a fractional percentage. Small, but measurable. She leaned slightly closer. "You are the first species to share sustenance without strategic intent." He scratched his cheek. I was hoping you'd like it." "That is not strategy. That is hope." The council went silent at that word. Hope was inefficient. Hope caused rebellion. Hope destabilized hierarchies. She lowered her voice, so only he could hear it clearly. "You did not come to conquer." "No, you did not come to seduce." He choked slightly. "Definitely not." "You came as you are." He nodded. "Yeah." A long pause stretched between them. Not tense, not romantic, but charged with something simpler. Recognition. Behind her, the ship's nutrient reactor stabilized, recalibrating around new variables introduced by human organic complexity. Officially, governments called it ongoing first contact nutritional exchange. Unofficially, the internet called it feed the alien. Rafik did not ask to become Earth's representative. He barely liked representing himself at staff meetings. But somehow, he was now the only human the alien emissary requested by name. Not president, not general, not billionaire, the cafeteria guy. She returned the following day, descending without military escalation. This time, fewer weapons locked onto her ship. Not none. Humanity was still humanity, but fewer. Rafik stood waiting with a larger bag. "You brought additional offerings," she observed. "I stress cooked." The bag contained lasagna, garlic bread, a container labeled "Do not shake" that absolutely should not be shaken. Her eyes flickered with interest. "You intend prolonged exchange." "I figure one sandwich isn't personality." She stepped closer. The council was already connected to her neural stream. They had not forgiven her for ingesting unscreened organic variability, but they could not deny the results. Her cognitive patterns had diversified, not weakened, expanded. She touched the lasagna first. Layers dissolved into shimmering neural light. Pasta carried domestic arguments about oven temperature. Cheese carried pride in getting the top layer perfectly golden. The sauce carried impatience. He never let it simmer long enough. She paused. "You assemble complexity in layers." "Yeah, you kind of have to. You accept imperfection between them." He shrugged. "That's how most things are." Behind her, council members analyzed a memory imprint. Human structures tolerate internal inconsistency. Their species had eliminated it. They called it order. Humans called it flavor. She absorbed more. Garlic bread. A spike of humor hit her neural lattice. He had once burned an entire tray, trying to impress someone who never noticed. "You attempt courtship through carbohydrates," she said calmly. He nearly dropped the container. "I what?" "In your memory, you prepared excessive garlic prior to romantic engagement." He went red. "That backfired. Your breath compromised the outcome." "Thank you for the replay." A faint shimmer crossed her skin again. Amusement. Her species did not practice humor. It disrupted efficiency. Humans weaponized it against embarrassment. She moved to the do not shake container. You were warned, he said. I do not shake. She absorbed the contents. Rice pudding. Warmth flooded her cognitive field. Late nights. His mother stirring slowly. Sugar measured by instinct. Silence that felt safe instead of lonely. This memory resonated differently. Not chaotic. Grounded. The council interrupted sharply. You are integrating their emotional architecture. She replied internally. Yes. Integration increases resilience. The council countered. Emotion introduces instability. She responded. So does stagnation. Rafik cleared his throat. You okay? You are potent, she said. From rice pudding? From attachment. He looked down at his hands. I didn't plan that part. That is evident. A small group of scientists have been permitted closer observation range. They whispered frantically. Human organic memory encoding appears to be embedded in microprotein patterns. It's not deliberate. It's habitual. The alien emissary turned her gaze back to Rafik. Your species bonds through ingestion. Please don't phrase it like that. You share internal states by offering prepared matter. That's better. She stepped closer again. You did not attempt to impress me with technological advancement. I can barely program a microwave. You did not negotiate territory. I rent. You did not posture dominance. He gestured vaguely at the sky. Have you seen the size of your ship? Her luminous expression shifted subtly. You rely on small consistencies. Like lunch. Yes. The council injected new data into her perception. Human social networks have begun replicating this behavior. Mass preparation of food offerings detected worldwide. She accessed the stream. Across the planet, people were cooking, not for spectacle, for participation. Families prepared dishes from every culture. Bakers woke before dawn. Street vendors offered samples to cameras broadcasting toward orbit. No unified government directive, just instinct. She processed the scale. You are contagious, she said softly. He frowned. We're vaccinated. Not biologically. Emotionally. Your behavior spreads. He rubbed the back of his neck. We copy what works. And vulnerability works. Sometimes. A sudden alert pulsed through her system. Their nutrient reactor was fluctuating again, not from overload, but from recalibration strain. Human organic diversity was interacting unpredictably with their sterile biochemistry. The council demanded withdrawal. She refused. Instead, she asked, Do you possess fermented substances? He blinked. Like yogurt? Yes. And anything intentionally decomposed. He grinned slightly. Oh, we excel at that. Within hours, a controlled exchange was arranged. Rafik returned with small sealed containers. Yogurt, kimchi, sourdough starter. The scientists protested. The military protested louder. He opened the sourdough jar carefully. This one's alive. She extended her hand. Microbial ecosystems dissolved into luminous code as she absorbed them. Her internal systems convulsed briefly, not from damage, but recalibration. Alien biochemistry had been too sterile for generations. Their engineered nutrient systems lacked adaptive microbial complexity. Human fermentation introduced dynamic stability. The reactor stabilized. Completely. Council silence followed. He tilted his head. Good. You corrected a flaw in our design. With bread. With imbalance. He smiled faintly. Yeah, we got plenty of that. The council recalculated threat assessments. Primitive species. Culinary obsession. Emotionally volatile. Unexpectedly adaptive. She looked at him with new intensity. You are inefficient. Definitely. You overprepare. I panic pack. You embed history in consumption. Guilty. You introduce controlled decay to strengthen systems. He raised a finger. That sounds way more impressive than it felt. She stepped closer than before. Close enough that cameras struggled to maintain focus. You solved the technological instability without understanding the mathematics. I just figured everything works better with a little culture. The word lingered. Culture, fermentation, civilization, double meaning layered cleanly between them. The council finally spoke, not in alarm, but in measured recognition. Human variables increase survivability metrics. She answered quietly, aloud this time. Yes. Rafik shifted awkwardly under the weight of global attention. So we're good. She studied him carefully. You arrived without armor. Didn't own any. You shared internal states voluntarily. I didn't realize I was. You corrected our imbalance through imperfection. He shrugged. We mess up a lot. You learn things. Her luminous form steadied completely now. You are dangerous. He froze. Not in violence, she clarified. In authenticity. He let out a slow breath. That's new. She inclined her head slightly. You destabilize hierarchy not through force, but through sincerity. I brought lunch. You brought exposure. Behind her, alien weapon systems powered down another measurable increment, not because of fear, because of recalculated trust. She leaned closer, voice low but clear. You are dangerously genuine. They were still armed. Humanity did not abandon weapons overnight, but the posture had changed. Fingers were no longer hovering over triggers. They were hovering over mute buttons, over broadcast controls, over translation feeds. Rafik stood waiting again. This time, he did not carry a single bag. He carried a folding table. Behind him, volunteers set up trays. Not military, not government, just people who heard what worked and decided to participate. You expanded the exchange, she observed as she approached. We don't really do anything small once we think it's a good idea. On the table were dishes from everywhere, spices layered into the air, steam rising, sweet, savory, fermented, fried. Her ship scanned the spread, biochemical variants off the charts. Council voices flickered cautiously through her. This is uncontrolled. This is communal. She stepped closer to the table. You assembled a collective offering. We call it potluck. A ritual? Sort of. Everyone brings something. Nobody shows up empty. Her gaze moved across the dishes. So no single individual carries the burden of impressing. Exactly. She looked back at him. You distributed vulnerability. He considered that. I guess we did. Across the planet, similar tables had formed. In city squares, on rooftops, in school gyms. People cooking and streaming upward, not for spectacle, but participation. Humanity, when unsure, fed each other. She extended her hand over the nearest dish. Spiced rice prepared by someone she did not know. Memory flooded her. Different kitchen, different language, same instinct. Feed first, talk second. Her luminous skin pulsed steadily now, fully adapted to human biochemical diversity. You bond through contribution, she said quietly. Yeah, if you don't bring anything, you feel weird. You experience shame for withholding. Pretty much. Her species had eliminated shame. They optimized compliance through design, not emotion. Humans ran entire social systems on subtle emotional pressures wrapped in kindness. She absorbed more dishes, smaller fragments from many hands. Childhoods layered together. Immigrant recipes carried across oceans. Arguments resolved over soup. Celebrations built around bread. Millions of small offerings woven into a planetary pattern. The council watched in stunned silence. Human social resilience correlates directly with shared nourishment frequency. They were calculating it like data. She was feeling it like structure. Rafik stood quietly, hands in his pockets now. You said come as you are, he said carefully. This is us. She turned toward him. Explain. We're messy, loud, competitive. We argue about stupid things. He gestured vaguely toward orbit. We also point weapons at stuff we don't understand. Her gaze flickered briefly toward the ships still present. And yet, she prompted, and yet we show up for each other, usually with food. A faint ripple of something like warmth moved through her. You do not deny your flaws. No point. They're pretty obvious. You do not conceal your contradictions. He shook his head. Too much work. The council inserted a query. Why does this species not attempt dominance display during pivotal alliance negotiation? She answered aloud this time, so both her kind and his could hear. Because they do not define strength as concealment. Rafik scratched his chin. We're not that deep. You are, she said softly. You simply do not narrate it. She stepped closer. Other species approached us with fleets first. He glanced at the sky again. We did that too. They led with power. He nodded slowly. We led with fear, he admitted. Yes, a beat. But you, she continued, did not. He shrugged. I don't have a fleet. You had no assurance of survival. Nope. And you came. Yeah. Silence stretched. Not heavy, not tense, just honest. You did not attempt to seduce me, she said calmly. He blinked. That was never planned. You did not posture superiority. I make lasagna. You did not negotiate advantage. I don't even negotiate my salary. A faint shimmer crossed her surface again. Humor had become easier for her. You arrived unarmored, she said. He nodded. You shared internal states. Apparently, you corrected our technological instability. With bacteria, you mobilized your species through example, not command. He looked around at the tables. I didn't tell anyone to do this. Precisely. She faced the sky briefly, opening her channel fully to the council. Their voices came measured now, no longer alarmed. Assessment. Human species demonstrates adaptive resilience through communal vulnerability. Threat level? She paused. Transformative, she said. Not destructive. Transformative. The word traveled through alien networks. Weapons powered down another increment. On Earth, radar screens reflected it immediately. Rafik exhaled, without realizing he had been holding his breath. She turned back to him. You misunderstood my initial communication. Probably. When I said come as you are, I meant without deception. Yeah. You interpreted it without projection. I just took it literally. That literalism, she said quietly, is your strength. He frowned slightly. Being bad at subtext? Being unwilling to weaponize it. She stepped close enough now that the cameras could no longer fully separate their forms and frame. You did not hide insecurity. Nope. You did not exaggerate capability. Nope. You did not attempt to appear larger than you are. He smiled faintly. Hard to do next to you. And yet, she said, voice steady, your species occupies disproportionate psychological space. He raised an eyebrow. That sounds dangerous. It is, she agreed, but not because of violence. She extended her hand once more, not for food this time. For contact. He hesitated only a second before placing his hand against hers. No weapons fired. No alarms triggered. Just data. This time, she did not take memory from prepared food. She took it directly. Surface thoughts. Doubt. Hope. The quiet fear that he was not important enough for this moment. And the simple, stubborn decision to show up anyway. She released him slowly. You are the only species that arrived without demanding to be seen as powerful, she said. He swallowed. We're powerful? You are, she replied, because you're not afraid to be ordinary. Behind her, the massive ship shifted orientation. Not attack formation, not retreat. Alignment. Council decree transmitted across both civilizations simultaneously. Humanity is recognized as an allied species. Gasps rippled across command centers worldwide. Weapons powered down fully. Alien fleets adjusted into non-combat configuration, not submission. Mutual repositioning. Rafik blinked. That's it. That is not small, she corrected gently. He glanced at the empty trays, the half-finished dishes, the crumbs and napkins scattered across the folding tables. This started with tuna, he said. It started, she replied, with sincerity. She leaned slightly closer, voice lowering one final time. You came exactly as you are. He looked at his flour-dusted sleeves. Yeah. And you brought extra. He smiled. Always do.